the moment that it'll take for me to get the microphone to you, please. Thank you. Galen Stearns.
Thank you, Larry. Good morning, and I'm sure everybody's well aware that the budget is the hot topic. Just for a little history, I was given a goal back in early December to cut the tax rate by $250. I made a presentation at that time that was real quick numbers, and it showed that we'd have to cut around $6 million or 49 positions, I think it was. The council then reviewed it and lowered the goal to $2. When we actually crunched the numbers and put everything in, it really didn't change much. We because of what they're doing with veterans credits and a few other things, we still had to cut about $6 million to meet their goal. So their goal still stands at $2 reduction in the tax, the town portion of the tax rate. That means about $6 million. We've spent a lot of time crunching numbers. I've worked with the department heads. Sue Hickey's done a lot of work with us to do scenarios. The plan that I'll be presenting basically reduced it down to 17 positions and part of those are already vacant positions. But that'll be presented Tuesday night, and like I said, that's the worst case to meet their $2 reduction goal. I can't put it any blunter than that. I am tasked by the charter to turn in a budget by April 1st to the town clerk. That will be done. The town council has until May 31st to act upon the budget I submit and to approve a budget for the ensuing year. And at that point, we'll see what we end up with for a budget. But right now, I'm working to give them their goal and the impacts to the town based on those goals. So we will see where that goes Tuesday night. But I'll take any questions that I can answer at this point. You're probably all wondering where we're going. Like I said, the plan right now shows 17 positions that would be lost, and most of those, or half of those, are already vacant positions. So, questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, is my understanding correct that the reason it's been reduced to 17 positions is because we're using some fund balance in order to realize that $2 cut per thousand? And if that's the case, next year we're going to have a revenue shortfall because we obviously can't keep taking from fund balance annually. So we kind of basically phasing in the layoffs so that we lay off 17 this year, and the next year we're going to have another major cut in personnel?
Actually, no. The good question. I'm trying not to present anything that is not sustainable, just for that reason. And I mean, if I wanted, I could cover the whole reduction by fund balance. But you're right. That doesn't. All that does is delay things. The usage of the fund balance that I'm proposing for this plan, I believe, is a sustainable reduction at this point, based on some fee increases, shifting the water from the fire department back to the rate payers. Another big portion is I'm looking at having the utilities reassessed by an outside firm instead of using the DRA rates. I think we can pick up at least $1 million in revenue that way. So what I'm looking at using that fund balance is a one-shot deal this year, but it will be sustainable and not be impacted in the further years. So I am looking at that, yes. Yes, sir. Larry. Yeah.
Whoever's on the water system is going to end up paying in the end to make up some of the cost of this.
Correct. Basically, right now,
the water system doesn't have to pay any extra money.
Correct. Right now, the entire town, everybody that owns property is paying for the hydrants, basically.
Is that fair to people who are on the water system?
Well, they're the ones that are getting the benefit from it. So it's basically a user fee at that point. You know, you're getting the use of the water, the fire department, if they have to utilize the hydrants are there for the surrounding homes, not the ones that aren't on the system.
So when the fire department uses a hydrant, we're gonna go put a water meter on there and charge the fire department for the water?
No, because that's the benefit to save your house.
I'm just saying, it's one of the thoughts that was in my mind was people on the system are gonna end up having to pay for this,
Correct.
for the cuts.
Excuse me.
So by imposing such drastic cuts to police and fire, is that going to reduce response time in the case of an emergency? And if it does, is it not true that that would then increase homeowner insurance rates in the town?
I'm not sure of the impact on the insurance rates. To do the $2 cut would require a closure of a fire station, which does affect response times. There will be areas of the town that'll change from a 4-minute response time to an 8-minute response time category.
Because I know last time that the English Range Fire Department was closed, it raised my homeowner's insurance quite a bit. And I would personally rather give my money to the town than an insurance company. So, just throw that out there.
Can you be more specific
One
about?
moment, please, Janice. Thank you.
Can you be more specific about non-personnel related cuts?
Without all my paperwork in front of me, I can't get too specific because I've done so many options. There's cuts in some operating expenses. Taylor Library would be utilizing some of their capital reserve funds to offset some of the operating cost. Derry Public Library had turned in where they would be cutting some of their programs to do that. I believe in that program, $1 million comes out of highways for road improvements and so forth. Anything that we have right now for charitable contributions would be cut out. Off the top of my head, that's the big ones.
So by charitable contributions, you mean agency, human service agency
Correct.
funding would be cut to zero?
Correct. We're
Thank
talking
you.
CART, and we're talking everything else that we give now. And one up, Larry.
Go to Alan first. Take turns.
I don't mean to hog the mic. If you cut $1 million out of the pavement management program, back in 2003, the council adopted GASB 34's modified approach, and they made a resolution to keep the PCI, pavement condition index, between 68 and 80. With $1 million cut, we would drop out of that range. By 2018, we'll be below that range. I don't know how we can sustain our road program with $400,000 in funding. The roads are going to fall apart.
I agree with you, Alan. But you had one behind you, Larry.
Excuse me.
Hi. I just wanted to say if you eliminate the agency funding, some of the viability of those programs will end. So I'm not sure, how you're going to feed 96-year-olds through Meals on Wheels. It's going to make our volume go up substantially, and you're going to put a lot of people's health and safety at risk. I just want to put that on the record.
Thank you. Larry, right over
Before any of the full-time positions get laid off, are you planning on taking care of all the part-timers and laying them off and getting rid of them? And if you do, what's your plan for parks and all these programs that people rely on during the summer?
At this point, not all part-times would be eliminated. Actually, some full-time positions would be reduced to part-time. It's basically would be working with the department heads to best utilize what's in their budget to provide the services that they can.
How does this affect Parks and Recs and all the free services they have, like to the seniors that don't have a senior center, that have free services and classes now? What happens to them?
Actually, in the $2 cut budget, there's very little impact to Parks and Recs. Most of those are self-funded programs, so I don't remember there being a lot of money coming out of Parks and Rec.
Good morning. I know we've talked about cutting some services for Health and Human Services. What about items like the fireworks, the annual fireworks?
That's still in the budget.
Okay, thank you.
Fireworks, parade, none of that was touched. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning.
Morning.
What about the transfer station? We lost 3 people full-time, and there's only 3 people running after we have one going to be retiring. What's going to happen with that?
I believe we're cutting one position out of the transfer station, not everything that's empty.
Which one?
I don't remember. All I remember the transfer station, there was one position that was lost.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Question. The $1 million you're going to increase the utilities, who's arriving at that number? How's that?
That's my guesstimate. Right now, we use DRA's figures to assess the PSNH and Liberty and all utilities. Surrounding towns or other towns do a independent assessment, and when I look at what they assess their utilities for versus what the state DRA figures are for those same utilities in their town, it's 2 to 3 times the assessed valuation that those towns are getting for the same utility. We're using the DRA rates, so I'm saying worst case we should be able to double the assessed valuation of the utilities. In Derry, that's $35 million, so if we doubled that, we'd be getting $70 million assessed valuation from those utilities, which is close to 100.
Will someone be helping arrive at those numbers, or are you just going to?
We'd be hiring an outside firm to do just utility assessment.
Morning. I was
Morning.
actually waiting to see if somebody else was going to ask the $1 million question. Half the positions are vacant. The other half of the positions have incumbents. When and what would be a reasonable time frame to notify those individuals that their positions may be eliminated? I know, like the school department, they have, I think, statutory requirements to hand out those pink slips a certain period of time before the actual layoff occurs. So I guess that's the question I think a lot of people are wondering. Who?
Like I said earlier, the council has until May 31st to act on a budget. I would hope that they would do it sooner rather than later. But at that point, depending on what the finalized budget ends up being, if there are positions that are going to be eliminated that have people in them, we would notify them as soon as possible. After that point, we would identify what positions would be, and notices would go out that, and it takes effect July 1st. That's when the new budget will be, so that's when the position would be eliminated. So they'd have, we'd figure it out in May, and the notices would go out at that point.
So there's no definite identification of the positions to be eliminated in the budget that you're presenting to the council?
No, not specific, Tom's position is going away. No, that's not. It's just, fire department would lose 5 positions or whatever it is. Police department loses so many positions. That's just the level of it right at this point.
Obviously, the different bargaining units and the non-representatives have different methods for bumping rights, I guess they call them. So it would be a process. I mean, we went through this before. I mean, believe it or not, we've actually eliminated 14 positions in the last several years. So, and I remember when it was done with some office administration, Teamsters support staff, it was a very complicated, a very acrimonious process. So I just don't know how much thought has been given to that, and I think the sooner we can do that, it would be, I think, nice and compassionate to let these people know that your job is on the line. It may not be definite, but I think I'd rather know, yep, you might be losing your job, so I can start looking now as opposed to, I'm sorry, you're gone in 2 weeks.
Has there been any discussion with regards to employees who might be eligible for retirement to maybe approach them with an incentive to maybe free cost savings for the town with regards to early retirement or a buyout?
There's been some minimal discussion about that. I need to give more thought. I haven't.
Yeah, once again, what's your goals for, once this is all settled, to get it back to where it is today? Do you have any goals of getting these 17 jobs back? Like getting business back into this town? 4A, we've already studied it 100 times, spent thousands and thousands of dollars on studying 4A. Do you have any plans on getting these jobs back?
With the tax cap, it's difficult to make great strides to replace positions. Yes, 4A is coming. It's back in the works. We're in discussion with the state and Londonderry on that. So that's moving forward at this point. We're redoing the EIS for that project because it's been so long, dormant so long. We need to really ramp up trying to get economic development. We need to start diversifying our tax base to help this. But ultimately, we need to, at that point, put in a plan to get back to some level of service if it's needed.
First, then you.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
I missed the first part of your program, but I wanted to follow up on something that Alan mentioned. When you're responding today, are you responding thinking of the budget you're proposing to the council, or are you responding as if this was the council's budget?
This is the budget the council has requested, the $2 impact.
Okay, thanks.
How do you feel that this is going to, in fact, affect the infrastructure of the whole town? Roads, everything.
Well, as Alan mentioned, we have a program, and it's done very well by the town. Our roads are in great shape. If we cut $1 million out, we're going to start deteriorating our infrastructure. At some point, we need to get back to a comfortable level. I'm not sure how to accomplish that, other than once they start sliding, at some point we'll do what we did in the past and other towns have, and have to bond to get things back up to the level that they need to be.
Thank you.
Nothing else? Thank you very much for, okay.
I keep coming back to this the sustainability issue of it. I think about what ex-Councilor Metz said about last time we did this, we had to go to a bond to get everything back. And how can we do all this without losing the town's bond rating, so that next time you have to go to bond to get this back, it's not going to be even more expensive?
That would have to be calculated. I'm not sure what impact these cuts would have on the bond rating. We'd have to wait and see.
So with conditional assessment, I know that you have to stay within a good rating, you know, according to the modified approach with GASB 34 associated with roadways. You have also not just committed to stay within the good range, you've also committed to fund annually $1.4 million. How are you planning on addressing that failure in
The council will have to be made aware of that and accept that. I mean,
so we would begin to depreciate the roadways?
Yes.
Okay.
Again, if there's nothing further, thank you for your attention. Have a good day.
So folks, again, thank you very much. And does anyone like to stand up, or should I invite Galen to get started right away? I'll do that. Let me also tell you before we get going, though, that we are recording both of these sessions, and so that we can create a CD and distribute that CD to the police department and the fire department and make it available to anyone else who wasn't able to be here this morning. We've done that with a couple of other training sessions, and it seems to be a fairly effective way of having a couple of meetings and getting the material more broadly disseminated. So as you ask questions today, we'll need to use the microphone, not so much so that you can be heard in the room, but so that we can capture both sides of the conversation. And so it'll be my pleasure to whistle around the room. And so if you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll recognize you, and we'll share the microphone. So, Galen Stearns, if you're ready, this group is ready. Except that they took the microphone. Debbie, where'd the microphone go? Oh, right. Hiding. Oh. I invited them to do so. Oh, it's okay. Here, thanks.
Good morning. Okay.
Is this one working? Here, try to take that.
It says it's on. I wanted to touch base somewhat on the fiscal year 16 budget that everybody is so much aware of, that we're going through now. As you know, early December, the council gave me a goal of reducing the budget by $2.50. My immediate reaction to that was it was going to be basically 50 positions and a $6 million reduction. They reduced the goal to $2. When we factored in the desire to increase veterans credits and a few other things, it basically came out still the same, around $6 million. Been working with the department heads and Susan to see where we can be creative and reduce that further. We're looking at utilizing some of the fund balance to offset some of the cost. The problem is we need to make sure that it's sustainable. because I don't want to just put it off the reduction for a year. We're looking at utilizing some of the fund balance and to capture what we're using to change some of the way we do things. One is to reassess utilities. Hopefully we can pick up more money that way. Instead of using the DRA valuation, we'll use an independent firm to assess the utilities, and hopefully we can, when I look at the numbers from surrounding towns and other towns that have done it, utility values, we can probably double them for our assessed valuation, which will help a long ways to replacing that dollars we're using at the fund balance. The goal of $2 that I've been asked to present to the town council, I'll do that Tuesday night. At this point, the numbers show 17 positions being eliminated. A lot of those are already vacant positions, so there's very few that will actually, about half that actually have an impact on people at this point. We are doing what we can to look at other cuts. Part of the cut will be like $1 million out of highway for roads and so forth. That long-term is going to cause us problems, but we'll be looking someplace into the future of how we can replace that type of money in those repair items for roads and so forth. I guess the easiest thing for me to do is to answer any questions that you have. I mean, like I said, I've been asked to present a $2 reduction budget. I'm doing that. That'll go to the council. That is not the final budget. That is what they've asked for. That's what they're going to get. They can look at it, and at that point, the town charter says I have to turn in a budget by April 1st. I will do that. The council has until May 31st to accept a budget, and we'll see where it ends up then. It could be completely different than what I'll be presenting Tuesday night. I don't know. But I'll answer questions. Just can you just hold up till the mic comes, because I think Larry said we're recording this, and if you don't have the mic, they don't get your audio.
Okay, so you're presenting a budget with the $2 cut.
Correct.
Now you're saying that based on discussions that you can have with the council, that may go up and may get worse.
No, I didn't say that. I'm saying that is the budget I'm presenting is what I was asked to give for the $2 reduction goal. I don't see it increasing, or being a higher reduction than that.
So
I can see them maybe saying, well, okay, maybe.
So what becomes the default budget?
The default budget will be the one that I turn in April 1st.
Okay, so per the town charter, from what I read, so you're making a presentation on Tuesday at the $2 reduction.
Correct.
If there's no action taken on that budget, what's the default budget?
That is not the default budget. That is not the budget that I'm turning in. That is what I was requested to turn into them for a budget goal. That's what April 1st I am chartered to turn in a budget. I haven't done that. I haven't drafted that yet. I'm waiting until after Tuesday to see where they're headed as to what I will be turning in for a budget.
Okay.
Sir, the last presentation you gave, giving the council I guess, early synopsis of the budget, you had over 40 employees being eliminated.
Correct.
I believe you just said that with the $2 reduction, taking money from the other fund, did you just say 17?
17 positions. The budget I'm presenting Tuesday night will show 17 positions being eliminated, yes.
But that's still the $2
correct
overall. Where's the discrepancy between the
first budget that I showed just was strictly off of operations, and I said that when I presented it. So strictly without taking anything else into consideration, if you just took $2 out of the operational budget of the entire town, I would have to eliminate 49 positions, I believe it was at that point. Since then, they've agreed that I can look at using fund balance. I can look at other ways of reducing what has to come out of the operational budget. So I will be looking to utilize some fund balance to reduce that, or to make that $2 reduction. And that's what I'm saying when I said I need to make sure that's a sustainable number, because we can't just keep reducing our fund balance.
That partially answers my follow-up that I have would be, if you go into the fund balance this year because they want that $2 goal, come next budget season with the tax cap in town, where does that, are we not looking that long-term down the road, or?
I am, that's why I said, anything that I'm proposing, I want to make sure it's sustainable, so that next year I'm not saying, well, geez, okay, we didn't make up that money someplace else. That's why I said I'm looking at utilities. I think, and I don't know until we have the assessment done, but I think we can pick up $1 million in utility cost, in taxes. There are other ways that we're looking to get money. We're looking to take the hydrant cost out of the town operating budget, put it back into the water department, which would become a user's fee then at that point. So instead of everybody in town paying the cost of the hydrants, the people that utilize the water system and they get the benefit of the hydrants being in their neighborhoods, they're the ones that are paying for having them there. So we're looking at other ways of getting revenue and reducing the impacts.
Thank you, Larry. Galen, when you present the budget, your proposal to the town council, will you also be saying what the effects of that are? For example, when you're talking about a cut in repairs, will you be talking about what the effects of that are going to be on the town?
I'm going to try to, yes. I mean, I've been working with the department heads. Hopefully I have a good idea of the impact of these cuts. So yes, I will be trying to convey to them what the impact would be.
Yeah, we went through this once before, a number of years ago, I remember. And what happened was that, of course, as you well know, when you finally get around to having to repair something, it usually costs about 3 times as much as it would if you kept up with it. So that's one of the reasons I asked that question. So if you're
I agree. I'm a big proponent of maintenance.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So when do you foresee the council holding the public hearing on this budget, which of course they have to do?
The public hearing will be the latest May 5th.
Okay, so the date hasn't been set yet, right?
Right now, May 5th is the date. It's their first meeting. That would be the meeting that right now I propose as a public hearing on the budget.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Stearns, you went over that we're going to have some pretty big cuts here, 17 people. Can you explain in detail what the impacts of the budget are going to be, and can you basically outline what those positions are, just so we have some transparency about where the cuts are going to be made, whether it's in the rec department, fire department, public works, police department? Because I don't think a lot of the town employees know where the cuts are going to be made.
And right now, like I said, it's some of them are already currently vacant positions. I think about half of them are currently vacant positions. Off the top of my head, I'm guessing, I'm trying to remember, it's 6 or 7 positions out of fire, 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 out of police, 1 in finance, library, it's 1, and 4 for part-time. I don't remember all of them, but.
Okay, is there something you
there's one
refer
at the-
to so we know what they are?
Pardon?
Is there something that you can refer to so we know what they are? Whether it's
Be
a
present-
animal
that'll
control
be-
officer, it's a mechanic, it's a secretary. Right now, you're saying positions. I'd like to see what they are.
And I'm not defining those at this point, because we'll be eliminating a position if this budget is approved. Then it'll be up, we'll have to work with the department heads, and we got to go through the unions, and there's bumping rights and everything else. So I can't, say that your position is going to be eliminated.
Okay, what about for services? Are we losing anything from the recreation department, from public works?
Recreation, minor cuts in operating budget, but most of that's self-funded, so that there's very little there. DPW, there's a position in the transfer station. The biggest cut out of the DPW is $1 million in highways. Tuesday night will be your best bet.
So the 17 positions that you're gonna discuss eliminating, if they get eliminated, how long will it take the town to get those positions back based on the tax cap? So if we lose 5 police officers, how long is it gonna take Chief Carone to get 5 police officers back?
I haven't calculated. The tax cap is based on the CPI. The best the CPI has been doing in the average of the last 5 years is around 1.5%. The $2 cut represents a little better than a 20% cut. So it's to get back to the current level would take in excess of 14 years.
Okay. Also regarding the budget, is there anything in the budget, I guess, for ratifying contracts?
No.
Thank you.
Thanks, Larry. I had a question. I don't think that we can decrease our emergency service personnel. We can't. We're already lower than we should be with some of the national averages. So I know you haven't defined some of these positions that will be eliminated, but if they're administrative positions, have you contemplated, are you going to combine departments, like some of the smaller ones, to share the administrative services? I mean, have you thought further into that? I mean,
Instead of cutting fire department?
yeah, instead of taking our police and firemen off the road.
No, that
to
hasn't
do
been considered.
I mean, okay.
I apologize if this has been addressed earlier. I was at another meeting. I personally would respectfully submit that we should be looking at the union contracts regarding the laying off of part-time personnel before laying off full-time personnel. Because that's going to be very detrimental to some departments, perhaps crippling. So for us to be able to go into this process thinking that we can lay off X number of full-time employees, I would hope that we could get that resolved before we get too far down this road of finalization, so to speak.
And basically, we would have to, once we have a committed knowledge of what the budget will be, that all those have to be looked into. I mean, we've got 7 union contracts that have to be vetted out to make sure we follow them.
And have you discussed what your recommendation will be relative to the flat 25 cents, 75, $1, whatever? Has that been addressed?
No. I mean, they've asked for the $2 reduction. That's what I'll present them what they asked for Tuesday night.
Okay, thank you.
So if we go into the fund balance, and I know that our bond rating is sometimes, I think one of the factors, and I may be wrong, but I think one of the factors that they consider when they look at our rating is the quality of our roads and our infrastructure. So taking this $1 million out, potentially, has anyone looked at the long-range impacts to our bond rating and what might happen to that? Because I mean, we've got a very decent bond rating, and that affects how our town is financially, affects how people coming into the town, specifically commercial developers, look at our town and what we have to offer.
Correct, but at this point, I'm not sure what the impact would be on bond ratings. I mean, we have an excellent bond rating. Would we slip a rating? I'm not sure.
So I'm trying to understand something here. If you're presenting a budget, or presenting the budget that they asked for on Tuesday, how is that not the proposed budget?
They have asked to have a $2 reduction presented in what the impacts would be. So that's not the official budget. They haven't said that that's the budget that they're going to be approving. So at this point, it is speculation. This is what the impact of a $2 reduction would be. This is not the budget. This is not the budget that has been formally submitted to the town clerk. Until that's done, you know, this is all an exercise to show them what a $2 reduction in the town tax rate would impact the town.
So you're presenting something that reflects their goals, and you're not stating it as a proposal?
Correct.
Okay. And a minute ago, you said that there's nothing in the budget as far as ratifying union contracts.
Correct.
Okay.
As I understand, and from what I found out about last year, when there was something in the budget, it was cut out because they didn't feel it was needed in the budget until the contracts had been approved.
Okay. If the funding isn't there to ratify the contract, how do you propose to get the money in the future then? Because the only way to do that would be to change the tax rate, get the money. So now our particular unit hasn't had a contract since 2010. So there are several of us that haven't had pay raises for 5 or 6 years. Does this budget include a pay raise for your position?
Yes.
Interesting.
Per my contract.
Are you aware that at least one of the vacancies is a direct cause or from this proposal?
I'm aware that there's a couple positions that have been vacated because of speculation of this proposal, yes.
So in a sense, so if this didn't go through, those people would have to, or we'd have to try to get those jobs back, and that would cost the town money, wouldn't it?
Correct.
In Tuesday night's budget, you say that you're going to present what they're looking for and the ramifications of it. In presenting that, I think it would be very wise for us to also really look at our bond rating and what it would be, what the effects would be. Thank you.
This hasn't come up in this session. One of the things that you had mentioned at the last session was that the charitable contributions would be defunded, which basically means that no agencies would be funded through human services. So you're looking at, off the top of my head, we're looking at the Sunshine Soup Kitchen, Meals on Wheels, Vintage Grace, Rockingham Community Action, CART, Upper Room. These are huge detrimental effects that will be felt throughout the community, serving the least needy. And I'm not trying to negate anybody losing their job, but we serve people that make $6,000 a year, $10,000 a year. And what are you going to do with all of these people that need a ride to chemo? What are we going to do with, I mean, what is the answer to that? I mean, I understand that, you know, everybody is upset. I respect that, but I think taking things just willy-nilly, public safety, is really penny wise, pound foolish, and you're going to end up with more people in the ER. CHS won't be around. I mean, you're going to be closing viable programs. How are you going to get seniors to Meals on Wheels? It just doesn't make any sense. And I'm not talking about myself. I'm not talking about my job. I'm talking about the Derry residents that we serve are truly, truly needy, and this is a disgrace.
You know what, the problem is, Chief, is it's being recorded, and if you're not on the mic, they don't pick you up.
Thank you. I think the question came about as to when is the real budget going to be introduced and so on. The charter requires that for the
April 1st, I am
that be done by
required
April
to-
1st, correct?
correct.
So
At that point-
that's perhaps the answer to that question.
Right.
Mr. Stearns, is it a concern of yours of what the actual citizens of this town wants, or just what these 7 people on the council want?
I'm concerned about what the residents want, yes. The council is the decision maker, though. They are the ones that are charged with setting a budget. So it's their choice.
But is that going to be the right choice? And won't the citizens of the town ultimately pay for that?
At this point, that's between the council and the citizens.
Do you think these $2 reductions are practical in the services that are going to be cut by the town?
Do I personally?
Yes.
No.
And have you made that knowledge, made that point to the town council?
Yes.
And what was their indication?
They gave me a goal of $2 to present to them, a $2 reduction. That is what I'm doing.
So your input in the budget, as far as what your position was, whether it's realistic or not, they didn't really seem to concern with that?
Like the chief said, my charter is to turn in my budget April 1st. I will be doing that.
Thank you.
You're making that statement very distinctly, so that what you're presenting on Tuesday, is that going to be different than what you are proposing to present to the town clerk on April 1st?
I need to get through Tuesday. Let's see where we go from there. If there's no, there we go.
How you doing, sir?
Good.
I live here in town, and I'm not sure if this is the right place to ask this question or if you have the ability to answer this. But as a resident, they're talking about the cuts, and I'm very curious why, they say they're going to cut so many police officers or $1 million from DPW, and that's kind of like a general statement. How come the department heads, like I would love to hear the police chief explain really what does that mean? We're going to lose whatever the number of police officers is. What does that really mean? Like more in detail, you know, if we're going to have $1 million cut out of the budget for the roads, you know, what does that mean as a resident? Because, I mean, just making kind of a blank statement that we're going to lose $1 million doesn't mean a whole lot to me. You know, does that mean we're not going to fix the roads for 5 years or something? I don't know. Is there a forum where that type of interaction could happen with the public, the people who live in the town, and things could be explained in more detail?
At this point, the answer to that is no. The council is not looking for the same type of presentations that have gone on in the past. They're looking for a overall view to meet their goal. Hopefully I'll be able to expound on what some of the reductions and cuts will do. In the roads, you're right. What does $1 million do for you? It means that we're not going to be filling every pothole. It means we're not going to be doing the normal routine maintenance of shim and overlays that we've done in the past. It probably means we're going to change the way we do snow plowing. So instead of being out immediately, we might wait until there's an inch or two on the road before we start doing the plowing. We probably will stop doing the cleanup of downtown. Every storm that cost us $8,500. So if I could take $1 million out of their budget, downtown's not going to be a priority to get cleaned up. Fire department, with that type of reduction, will definitely mean a station closure. You're going to drop down to approximately probably 14 on a shift. Police department, you're going to lose, I don't know, someplace in the neighborhood of 4 officers and some support staff and things like that. Library, we're going to be looking at cutting off some programs and some people. So there's a lot of ramifications that go into this type of a deep cut.
Mr. Stearns, I know the impact of the bond rating has been brought up several times, but with you mentioning a closing of a fire department, less police personnel, their highway, just the impact of homeowners' insurance values. I believe last time a fire station was closed in this town, residents in that area had an increase of their homeowners' insurance that exceeded the value amount of the tax rate that was cut. Is that part of the presentation you're including in that $2?
I don't have those figures. I'm not sure if I could get those figures. I will make an attempt to, but at this point I hadn't considered making that type of presentation, no.
I mean, if someone's going to save $250 a year on their tax bill, but their homeowner's insurance goes up $300, and you still have less services, I don't think that's very beneficial to the residents of the town.
I just have one question. Is there any thought been made towards how we're going to draw businesses and people to come to Derry when we've cut services, the roads are not plowed, non-plowed roads will equal more accidents, but now we'll have less officers and fire personnel to respond to those accidents. I mean, this is a domino effect, and we really need to think outside the box. No one's going to want to bring a business to the town of Derry when they can go across the highway to Londonderry and have all the services that they need.
Correct. I don't know the answer to that.
How does this proposed budget meet with the master plan?
It really hasn't been reviewed in depth. As far as I'm aware, it doesn't meet with the master plan. If no further questions, I thank you for your time. Well, okay.
In regards to...
Mike.
There was a comment made back here about insurance rates and so on and so forth. One of the proposals is to take the fire hydrant rental and move it to the water department.
Correct.
For anyone who is, has municipal water and sewer, of that $300 or whatever it is that you're going to save by this $2 tax cut, you're going to be paying about $125 to $150 more for your water and sewer. So it's just another one of those ramifications that that people are talking about.
Again, if no further questions, I thank you for your time. Sorry it wasn't better news, but I'm trying to give you as much as I can at this point for information. Thank you.